10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, welcome on our live stream here. Today I am with Gregory. Gregory, how are you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
Not too bad. Today we're gonna be doing a bit more work on the virtual application. So it is not a real application, and we are not with DevExpress doing anything commercially on the cloud, but we're gonna do some more coding on our types. It was React with
With
DevExtreme
TypeScript,
controls,
right?
and you were using TypeScript as well. Yeah, it's like a whole mouthful. And yeah, today you're gonna do something really interesting, which is, if I'm not mistaken, dashboarding. And
Yeah, we're gonna
yeah,
get
let's do a
started with.
quick recap. Sorry.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get started with the dashboard, right?
Yeah, cool. And well, a really quick recap. Last week, right at the end, if I'm correctly, you put in that really nice drawer component, like with the side panel expanding and collapsing over your application and stuff. And yeah, today you're going to be dealing with the charts, I guess, right?
Yeah. And
Awesome.
before we start, I thought I'd just mention once again we have that little subscribe counter behind me,
Yeah.
and so just to remind everyone to like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Twitch, all the social media sites, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a lot of interesting stuff on this stream as we speak. I mean, yesterday it was Eric with Amanda talking about reporting and Maui. Next week, I'll be showing some more cool stuff on Blazor and DevExtreme. Um, and yeah, right now on the Wednesday, and tomorrow even, we have, if I'm not mistaken, Carl Franklin on the stream. He will be doing something cool with AI, Chat GPT, Win Forms. That's going to be cool as well. But yeah, let's take it away, Gregory.
Okay, cool. So on my screen is basically the homepage of the app that we've been building so far. So if we all remember, I sort of just started building this app and we added some basic functionality such as this products page, with these different cards, pricing page, which we just kind of left sort of barren, but just wanted to show some of this functionality with the accordion. This about page I left pretty simple, and we took care of this contact page last time around. And of course, we have this login, which if I go ahead and if I actually log in, it takes us to this dashboard page.
Cool. Yeah. And yeah, I think it may be clear, but we'll emphasize it again. This is obviously a demo application, so there is no production ready code for validation, token exchange, that kind of stuff, right? I mean, it's just to show how easy it is to visualize your data by using DevExtreme.
Right. I just set this up for purely testing purposes, just to show off how these components are used and how they work together. So as we get into this, one thing I want to point out, first of all, is that again, I am developing this on a remote server and I'm using Node version 20 in case anyone was curious. And this is being developed on Linux, but it should work the same way on every other platform because ultimately it is just Node. So if I go ahead and open up NeoVim, which is my editor of choice in this kind of scenario, there's simple web apps like this where you don't really need much. I'll go ahead and open up the source folder of the app, and I'll jump into the app.tsx file. And hopefully everyone can see this. These are the routes that we have going so far. So we have all those routes, the login, the dashboard, so on. And if I go back to my Explorer, and I jump into this components folder, my nav bar, you can see this nav bar. And just recently it was brought to our attention that I made a slight mistake here in the previous stream with this item click event here, which is just the type that's being used down here on this line here. So this item click event, I'm getting it from this DevExtreme /UI/toolbar. However, the correct way to do it would be to come here and say toolbar types. We can get rid of this item click event.
Okay, cool.
And it'll be toolbar types.item click event. And that'll be the correct way to do this. So all these imports are going to be coming from the toolbar itself.
Yeah, that looks better as well in code.
And all this is just coming directly from the DevExtreme-React package.
Yeah.
And so that's just a slight little mistake I made. That's what happens when I get complacent and don't read the documentation, but that's okay. So I just wanted to mention that, just a little mistake there.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, this is this can happen when we do live coding, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're definitely not pretending to do it. So if I jump back here, if everyone remembers, we didn't set any routing up here. So this just sort of doesn't go anywhere. When I click these links, it doesn't render anything. And it just, it changes it because it has a link. However, it won't actually render anything properly. So we're going to fix that right off the bat. So to do that, I'm going to go into my right here. And again, this is also a slight change I made where I moved this dashboard file, which is that side panel, outside of the components folder into a new folder called layouts, which is a little bit better organization. And so we can jump into this file here. And as we see here, we have our navigation here. So these are all those links on the side here. We have all of our toolbar items. So for example, this first one here is that menu option. This hamburger menu on the side here, which just opens and closes the side panel.
Oh, yeah.
Or I should probably say the drawer. That's the correct term. And we have this home button here, which takes us to the home page of the site, and the logout button. And right here, we have our drawer, which is being rendered right there.
Yeah, that is so simple. I don't know if you've ever tried doing something with pure CSS like this drawer, but it's a tough nut, man.
Yeah, the drawers are really tough. The my first ever nav bar in React actually used the React styled components, which
Oh,
are
yeah.
pretty terrible to use. I mean, I'm really not a fan. I've used a lot of Tailwind in the past for nav bars, and that makes it a little bit easier to read, in my opinion, easier to write.
True.
But yeah, anyway, so this drawer right here creates this, has this navigation menu as part of it. And this navigation menu component right here is simply rendering a list component. So again, this is
Oh, yeah.
just, again, our DevExtreme list. And the list can be used in many ways, but one of the ways it can be used is inside the drawer. And also, I'll note that you can also use a sort of like a collapsible tree view instead of a list. So that's also possible. And you can have a list embedded in there, and the options are really endless. It can be even a custom implementation if you prefer. So as we can see here, we have this data source, which is that navigation array that's above. We have our hover state. They're just some simple options that you can play around with. And on item click is this function that runs here. And this navigates to a certain thing. However, this implementation here actually won't work. And
Oh,
that's just a slight little quirk of React Router. So I just kind of followed the documentation and did a little bit different than this. So what I need to do here is first I'm going to remove this, use navigate here, and I'm going to remove this function. So in here, I'm going to create a new function called render item. And it's going to say use callback. It's going to be data. And I'm going to
I mean, the
create this
font
type
is
inside.
quite small, but I think you've got a typo in the use callback.
Yes, I do.
The second C is, yeah.
Yeah. So you'd think I'd be able to see those typos, but for some reason I can't, even though it's all giant on my screen here. I'm just going to create a return here. And in here, I'm going to say create a div. I'm just going to leave that empty for now. And say link to equals data.path. And I'm just going to close this for now. And we need to make some, add some imports. So I'll jump up to the top. And after use navigate here, we need to import link. And I'll just do it now because we're going to need it later. We're going to need something called outlet. And we can remove this item click event as well. And so if we go back down to our use callback, right here we need to add our dependency array, which is we're just going to leave empty. And as we can see here, the link is highlighted, so that should be working. And we need to make a couple changes to our list here. Or actually, first we'll go ahead and add we need to here the link. So I'll just open up this link. I'll add another div. And I'm just adding these divs just so we can deal with styling. And say class name is dx dash list dash item dash icon dash container. And this is one of our default class names from our DevExtreme style sheets. And this is just so it gets applied and it works properly. And this again is straight from our documentation. Inside here, we need this I tag. And I'm going to make this a self-closing tag. And this class name is dx-icon. I'll go ahead and remove some of this out of here. It's going to be dx-list-item-icon and dx-icon dash. We're going to add data.icon into here as well. And so this is just going to render out the icon that we specify up here. So for example, this home, user, product, that kind of icon, that's where it's going to be essentially rendered here. Inside
And that's
this,
obviously going to use an icon font that we ship, right?
yeah, and that's, yeah, exactly. And all this is just from our own styling, our own DevExtreme style sheet.
Cool.
Yeah, and so after this div right here, I'm going to create a span. The class name as text-white. And this is just so we make sure it's going to be white text because we have a dark background. And it's going to be data.text. So again, it'll get the text from right here. And so that pretty much wraps this up.
But you had to create this little template because otherwise that routing wouldn't work.
Yeah, basically I need to be using this link, and I'll show why in a second. It's actually kind of an odd issue, but it works just fine. So for this list right here, I'm not going to be using this data source. Instead, I'm going to say items equals navigation and item render equals render item. So it's this function up here. That's what it's going to call down there. And this item click event, I'll just get rid of that because we're not using that function anymore, of course. And get rid of this selection mode as well. It won't really make a difference in our implementation here, so there's no reason to have it there. And also, if you remember, we created this data right here, this type, which
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I should just probably name it data type. Probably is a little bit easier to see.
Oh yeah.
We type data type, so it'll be, and yeah, that's correct. So if you remember up here, we imported this outlet right here.
Yep.
So what we really want is in our drawer here, we want to render whatever page we put in there, right? So if we click on, say, this dashboard button right here, this link, we want to display that page, or the profile, we want to display that page. And so the way we have to do that is using, React Router DOM. And the best way to do that is to use that outlet right here. So this is kind of the new approved React way. However, there's other ways to do it as well. So this is the simplest way that I found. Just putting that outlet there. And that basically will just insert whatever we're going to render into there. I'll show you how that works in a second. But ultimately, what we can also do is up here, we can simply say something like component, okay? and we just pass in whatever component we want to render, and we could put that down here. So instead of this outlet, it would say, you know, component down here, something like that. And also what we could do is if we jump back to our app, yeah, we have this routes and route. We can simply put whatever pages we want to render in there like that with routes and routes, and having individual routes for our different pages. And that's actually
Okay.
how we describe it in our documentation. However, this method to me is a little bit simpler and cleaner, and we can keep everything routing related in this main app.tsx file. So that's just a
Keeps it
personal
nice.
preference.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is see how this says route path is dashboard right here,
Yeah.
and it renders this dashboard component here. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of that self-closing tag, and we're just going to add a route there. So a route tag, closing tag, and Copilot is already starting to give me some options here.
Oh, yeah.
But so for example, I'll click away so we can see it. What we want is when we click here on this dashboard, we want it to still display the same route, which is our URL/dashboard. We don't want to create a separate path in our URL. So when we click this, it changes, even though this is where we end up when we first go to the dashboard, if that makes sense. So what we need to do here is we need to, instead of saying path is a /, what we need to say is index, and then the element can be whatever element we're going to pass here. And this is actually going to be dashboard home. And I'm going to create that right now. And so if I jump back into our pages folder, I'm going to create a new directory called dashboard. And in that directory, I'm going to put a file called dashboardhome.tsx. I'm going to open that up. I'm just going to set up a simple functional component here. And that's fine. We'll export that component. And back up here, we'll go ahead and import that. And that's correct. And so see this dashboard home? When we jump back here, you should see
Oh,
it
there it
displays that
is.
H1. And in this case, I have the nav here that overlaps. I
Yeah.
think we should actually change that.
Yeah, the drawer has a couple of different modes, right?
Yeah, so for the drawer, instead of having this overlap, I'm going to change this to a push. And the reveal mode, instead of slide, I'm going to say expand. And we jump back here, you can see how it changes.
Oh, yeah, that looks nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so it just pushes our content over rather than causing us any kind of problem. So it's nice and simple. If I jump back to my code, jump back to this dashboard home, you can see that that's what it renders.
Yeah.
And so that's nice and easy. And while I'm here, I'm actually going to go ahead and make another file here so we can see called dashboard profile. I'll open this up, and again, I'll do that same thing. And we'll go back to our app, import that. Add it down here. The route, then the path will be profile. And if you notice, we don't add a slash here. I'm not sure if it'll work without it. I think it probably will, so we just try it, see if it works. And looks like it doesn't.
I don't think it works.
Yeah, with a slash. Yeah. That's okay. Jump back. Yeah, so it works. And this comes to the major thing that's slightly interesting with routing in here, which is when I click this dashboard, it doesn't actually show anything until I hit the refresh button. So that's just this like little weird quirk I just came across over the weekend. But there's a pretty easy fix to that. And what we have to do is, if you remember, we have this link here.
Yeah.
And with this link, we need to just change and add a slight option called reload document. And so this is just going to reload the page as if we hit the refresh button.
Ah, that is easy.
And so when we do that, it takes care of all that weird rendering bug. And so as we can see, when I click these buttons, it changes the URL and it changes the page here. And of course, everything works as expected with the side panel. So this all seems to be working as we want it. And so I'm just going to go ahead and move on to making this home page here, so this dashboard page. And I'm just going to keep it simple for now. I'm going to go ahead and add a cool little chart. And we'll see how the DevExtreme charts work, because I don't think I've really done much with them so far. So I'm going to start simple with a simple pie chart.
Sounds like a good plan, because I happen to know that we have a ton of different chart types on DevExtreme. And did you know that they are all rendered as SVG? So they're scalable and they look good on any screen.
Yeah, our charts are very cool. And well, I won't spoil it. There's another cool thing I'm going to be adding as well.
Well, don't keep me waiting too long in that case. So hurry up, man.
I'm going to import use state and use effect. And we're just going to need these in a second. And I'm going to import this component that I haven't created yet. I'll create that in a second. Actually, I'll just go ahead and do it right now. Probably be faster for us. So I'll go ahead and this help Copilot nice and fast.
Mhm.
And so, yep, this is all being imported correctly. And what we're going to go ahead and do is first, let's deal with this return here. So I'm just going to create a empty div. We create an h1. The class name is padding-4. I'm just going to call it dashboard here. And I have to capitalize the N. And down here, I'm going to just put that in there, that component. And if we jump back here, it's just another h1, but we'll make sure it's rendering out, which it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a use effect to get some data that I have in that mock backend I built. So that same small little test API, just so we can see how it works with the charts.
Oh yeah.
If you want to build this at home, I'd recommend just copying the data I'm going to put in here and just hard coding it in, just so you can see how the chart works. You can also just create your own backend with your own data. Obviously, you can adapt this however you want. So I'm just going to create this use effect here. And leave my dependency array open, or empty, I should say. And that's just because we're not going to have any dependencies, because what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to create a function called getData. It's going to be async function, because we are going to be hitting a API endpoint. And Copilot actually helps us out pretty nicely by giving us some of this information. And this is actually going to be coming from this system I'm on, actually, but I'm just going to specify the IP address. A little fun fact for everyone watching, actually, is if you specify localhost in your apps, the computer will actually try to find both the IPv4 and IPv6 address, so it'll try to resolve both. So by specifying either the IP address of the computer or 127.0.0.1, it actually can speed up the time it takes to get that request. Like just milliseconds, but theoretically, if you had a massive app and you replaced everywhere it says localhost with the correct localhost address, it could actually speed up your app, which is a fun little tidbit I thought I'd mention.
Wow. Well, I mean, on a production environment, you would definitely not hard code this host anyway in your UI components. So.
Yeah, we would be using environment variables. So our methods are going to be get, and the headers are, of course, going to be application/JSON. And down here, so underneath this get data function, I'm just going to call it. And the reason why we put this function inside the use effect is just so it doesn't make multiple requests, essentially. Because if we don't do that, it'll just keep running it and running it forever, essentially. And it'll just be like an endless loop. So that's just kind of like a little trick. And we can also use a callback. I mean, there's other ways to do it. This is just a simple little hack, kind of. And this is pretty much what most people do anyway. If you see like real React, like production code, this is what they do. And so what we need to do is this data that we get back from our server. First, I guess we should just take a look at it just to see what we're dealing with. So I'll jump back here. I'll open up the DevTools in the console and do a nice refresh. I'll zoom this in. And again, I mentioned this last time, I believe. You get this license key message here. That's just because I'm not going to put a license key in there just for for obvious reasons. But on our website in the React docs, it'll show how to do this for React and all the other platforms as well. And so if we look at this response we get from the server, we get this success is true, and this total nodes, which is just a very simple array with these 3 values. So it's going to say virtual machines, and total is 10, cloud storage total is 5, web apps total is 3. So it's just 3 numbers and 3 pieces of text, basically. So it's a very simple little response that can demonstrate our chart really well. So I'll just go ahead and refresh this. And we'll jump back to our code. And so this response that we get, what we need to do is we need to save this, of course. We're going to say total nodes, set total nodes is use state. And we'll leave this for now. But what we need to do is we need to create a type for this. And this, we don't actually, I mean, I should say we don't have to do this, but this is sort of the good practice. So I'm just going to create this total nodes type here. And it's going to be the type is string, total is number, and this is just what we're getting back from our server. And this use state here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say array, because the type we're getting back an array of objects. And the type inside that array is total nodes. And we'll go ahead and close that off. And in here, we need to initialize the array. And we're getting this slight LSP warning here. And to fix that, what we need to do is we need to basically initialize it. I'm just going to do it to empty values. And this will just make all these warnings go away. This is just telling me I'm not using these values yet. But I'm going to fix that right now. And just under here, I'm going to say set total nodes is data dot total nodes. That's because we also send that success message as well. And we could use that for error checking and that kind of thing. In reality, what we do is when we sent this request, we'd send along our token, authorize it, use that token to find the user, and of course get that information specifically for that user from our database. But this is just a nice little easy way to do it so we can all see what's going on. And so down here in this total nodes chart that I'm about to build, what I'm going to do here is pass along this property, and I'm going to send this total node state variable into this component here. And so inside this component here,
and then you can bind that to the chart component, right?
yeah. So this is going to be our chart, and this dashboard home is going to render that chart. So the idea is that we're not creating these components. So like these are going to be sort of like individualized sort of little squares when I'm done with it. So I'm just going to create them all separately so we can segment it out so this file doesn't get, gigantic. So it's nice and easy to read. And if we want to modify the page itself, we can just modify the styling of the page rather than having to go through each individual component and, sort of creates extra headache for no reason. So this is just a little bit better practice. And so in here, what I'm going to do first of all is create this total nodes type again. And of course, what we would do in reality is we'd have this in a separate, types folder or something like that. So we wouldn't have to deal with this like this. We would just import the type. But since this is just the only place I'm going to be using it, it's fine to just type it again. It's no big deal. And so down here, what we're going to need to do is say total nodes, and this is what we're going to get back. You don't have to add a type here, but I'm going to add a type. And it's going to be the total nodes, and it's going to be total nodes type as an array. Okay, so this is kind of kind of a mess, but this is sort of what we have to deal with, sadly, because what we're getting back is that JSON object called total nodes here. This is just a variable name, right? And it's going to be of a total nodes type up here, but as an array. So for example, I could just change the name here to nodes or something. Maybe that's a little bit easier to read, but whatever.
And then, but if you change it to nodes, you have to do that in the other page as well, or is that the other? There is now two total nodes.
Yeah, I'd have to do it there as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So because it's sort of named.
Yeah.
What we could also do in React is we could just pass along props. So we get rid of all this and just say props. We could also give that type, and we would just say, instead of just saying like total nodes here, what we would say is just props dot total nodes. That's just another way to do it essentially. And we could just test this out really quick. Total nodes dot let's say the first one dot type, and we can just make sure this is working correctly. I'll get rid of that extra div there for no reason, or that H1, sorry. And you can see it says virtual machines right here. Yep. So it is working. Our information is being passed properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste some of these imports. So we're going to be importing the pie chart component, series, label, legend, connector, size, export, title, and font. And these are all coming from DevExtreme React /pie chart. And what we really want is the pie chart, of course. These are just little styling extras that we're going to need. And the export, I'll show how that works, and that's really awesome with our charts. So what we're going to do in this return down here, I'm just going to go ahead and delete all that. I'm just going to create a pie chart.
Oh yeah.
And data source is going to be total nodes. The palette is going to be office. And we have lots of different palettes you can choose from. Some of them work better on the light themes, some work better with the dark themes. It just depends. I'm going to say class name is margin-4. Background dash hashtag 141 E28. And this is just a darker background, so we have some contrast. Rounded dash large. Shadow dash medium. So this will just give us a little bit of rounding on the edges and some shadow. And let's say width dash 400 pixels, just so we can see how it looks. And the height is going to be the same. And inside this pie chart, we need a title. Next is total nodes. That's it. Actually, my bad. And you should be actually able to see what this looks like. So if I refresh, you can see how this
there
is
is
all
the
dark
chart.
here. Yeah, we're getting this like dark title here, and you can't really, you can almost not even see that at all. So the way to fix that is inside this title, we're going to use the font component, and then say the size is 28, and the color is white. That way when we jump back,
Oh yeah, that looks better.
we can see how that looks. And down here, we're going to say series, argument field is type, and the value field is total. So that's correct. And inside this label here, what it's going to be is customized text is equal to format label. I'm going to create that in a second. And in here, inside this label, it's actually going to be a connector, visible true, and width 1. So the connector will, I'll explain that in a second, actually.
Yeah, this also explains why you had to import all those elements on top of the page, because you're now pretty much using all of them, right?
Yeah. So this format label is just going to be sort of a small functional component, which is just going to give us some more flexibility. So it's going to take an argument, and I'm going to give it a type, and the type is rather complicated. It's going to be argument text, which is a string, value text, which is a string as well, and that is correct. And
yeah, I was just, oh yeah, that's it.
yeah, so it's going to take this argument text, this value text, and just separate it with a colon. So this label I just forgot the I in there. So if we jump back, you can see our chart starting to take form.
Now we're talking. That looks pretty smooth.
Yeah,
and it's got
so
a
if we
hover state as
refresh,
well.
we have the animation. You can
Oh
see.
yeah.
And we have, see how we have this text. So this cloud storage 5 here. This is just that custom text we just created. And so this just allows us to sort of, see what it is rather than just having a number or just having text itself. So it's a little bit clearer and easier to see. And those connectors I just mentioned are these little lines. So this little yellow, red, and blue line here, those are the
Okay.
connector components. And so we're going to add a little bit more customization here. So under this series, we're going to say legend. Visible is true.
Well, that doesn't look
Critical,
like true.
yeah.
I think you made a small little typo there.
And this is correct. So we're going to have it at the bottom of the chart and in the center. I think this just looks the best. And the width, I'm going to make it actually 400. This is the size of the chart itself.
Okay, yeah.
And we're going to say export enabled is true. So this is another just really cool feature. If we jump back, you can see we have our legend here at the bottom.
Yeah.
This chart's a little bit bigger. And we have these export options. And again, if I reload, we have that nice animation go.
That export feature, that was really quick.
Yeah, just that one simple line, really cool.
Yeah.
And for example, if I hit print, see if this
Oh, yeah, that looks sweet as well. Cool.
yeah. So this is basically just that chart, but it gets rid of the background and all that stuff. And we can just say ping, and we can just save it. I'm just gonna keep it, open it, photos. Of course, it's giving me all kinds of options. But
Oh, that looks nice as well. Yeah, that
so
exporting was super simple.
yeah, and this is all rendered properly, and it keeps all our formatting, which is really cool.
Yeah.
If you notice, it's actually not. It's pretty much exactly the same as what we see on the screen, just in these various different formats. And so, yeah, I mean, it could be embedded. If, for example, you want to create sort of a report, we can say, use it as a SVG, so we can use it sort of in the email.
Yeah.
I believe SVGs work in emails, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so like, theoretically, if you're actually creating this app, what you could say is maybe like set up alerts. And if the customer were to sign up for alerts every, I don't know, week or so, they could get sent like a usage report by email. So they wouldn't have to log into the site just to see. So if they're, an IT guy managing these things, they could see the usage, that kind of thing. So that's kind of the use case I thought of for this particular kind of app. Of course, there's a million other use cases of exporting charts. But yeah, it's really cool, really helpful.
Yeah, really easy to set up. I think, if I'm not mistaken, what you can also do, I know that you don't have that information right now, so we cannot show it anyway, but suppose you have data on those virtual machines and you want to have like a separation between Linux and Windows servers or virtual machines, you can actually create like a drill down function in the chart as well, right? That you can
Yeah,
actually zoom in on a
if we
particular
click
part.
on these things, we have
Yeah.
events in our API. So when we click on these things, we can display little pop-ups. We can do pretty much anything we choose.
Yeah, great stuff.
And
Cool.
if I jump into our js.devexpress.com page here, we go into our demos. We can actually go down to charts, go to pie charts.
Yeah.
And this is essentially what I'm using. This is, of course, slightly different styling. It doesn't have that custom label. However, we do have a example with that custom label, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And this is just another custom label. We have uh, two of them here. We can look at our different color palettes here. So this is kind of
Nice.
cool. So for example, I use this Office color palette. I think it just looks a little bit more muted, and I think it looks better with our background color scheme. But we have lots of options. So for example, this is a pretty cool one, this dark moon. And we have other options here as well. So it's carmine material. That's if anyone's familiar, this kind of looks like the same colors like Google uses by default. So it's that material theme kind of look.
Yeah.
Of course, the Office one is sort of the more Microsoft kind of theme. Because I'm using the Fluent Design DevExtreme theme by default, I think the Office one kind of looks best, but we can try other ones out. Like
Yeah,
let's
but I
try
mean,
out let's try out
it's
this ocean
easy
one.
enough. It's easy enough to change those palettes. So, yeah. Where did you put that again? Oh,
Yeah,
right
just
there.
right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. So just change that to whatever you like, and you're all set.
If we set ocean here,
Yeah.
jump back, we
I
can see
think
how
I
it
read.
changes.
Yeah.
So just lots of different options, and yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, I mean, I see we're kind of running short on time, so I think I'll leave this profile for next week, and hopefully I can
Yeah.
get started on one of these other ones as well. And yeah, so I think
Sounds
that
good to me.
more or
I mean,
less wraps it up.
the charts are, well, extremely simple to use, and they look really awesome. So, yeah, good stuff. Well, there were some questions coming by. There is this one visitor that is using our DevExpress Blazor controls for the past few years, and there was something. Yeah, we have a simultaneous stream on Twitch as well as YouTube. So, but no technical questions so far. So, yeah, I think that we can wrap this one up. Thank you for showing this, Gregory, and we'll be online next week.
Yeah, see you next
Right.
week,
Well, thanks for
John.
watching. Tomorrow we have Carl on the stream about wind farms, ChatGTP, and all kinds of AI stuff. Next Tuesday, it's going to be me with Amanda, and I'll be doing some Blazor stuff in combination with DevExtreme. And Wednesday, you're back. So thank you for watching, and till next time.